Hello everyone. Today we're going to be using volume formulas to problem solve. So for this particular unit you have to have the cylinder, the cone, and the sphere formulas memorized. So please try to write these formulas and be able to say the formulas without looking at your notes. The formula for a cylinder, the volume formula for a cylinder is the base area, which is a circle, so that's pi r squared, and then we just have to multiply it by the height. The volume for the cone is the exact same thing, pi r squared height times height, but a cone is 1/3 of a cylinder's volume, so divided by 3. And the sphere's formula is a little bit different. It's 4 times the pi r cubed, and the reason it's cubed is because the radius is also the height, so there's 3 radius factors, and then it's divided by 3. So very similar. This first word problem is very similar to what you've already had on an assignment. You're just finding the volume, so you have to find the important parts. It's a cylinder, so that's important, so you know which formula to use. V equals pi r squared h. And then you need to find the dimensions that are given. So we know that the diameter is 20 meters and the height is 40 meters. The diameter is not in the formula. The height is right there. Height is 40. We know that pi is 3.14. So we're still missing the radius. But we can find the radius from the diameter because the radius is half the diameter. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. So our radius is 10. So the important part is that when you're given the diameter, you remember to divide it by 2. I still see some of you doing that. After you have your formula written and everything plugged in, then you can just use the calculator to simplify. So the volume is 12,560, and we're in meters, so it's going to be meters cubed. All right, this problem is a little different because we have to do some comparing, and you definitely have some of these on your summative assessment. First, however, there is a typo. This is supposed to be in centimeters, so both of the measurements, both of the labels should be centimeters. All right, so we need to figure out if one of the big spheres would hold more or less than 2 of the smalls. So the first thing you have to do to compare is actually find the volume of both. So we need our formula. The formula for sphere is V equals 4 pi r cubed over 3 for both of them. And then we're going to fill in what we know. So we know that our radius is 3 for the small, and it is 7 for the big. So we'll plug in our numbers. 4 times 3.14 times 3 cubed over 3, and 4 times 3.14 times 7 cubed over 3. And then just do those calculations. All right, so that's what I got. I got for the small, it had a volume of 113.04 centimeters cubed, and for the large, 1,436.02 centimeters cubed. So there is no doubt which one is going to hold the most. And even if you have 2 of the smalls, even if we double that to 226, okay, sorry about the barking. Even if we double it to 226.08 centimeters cubed, it's still not going to even be close to how much the larger one holds. All right, so this problem is another comparing problem. Here they're just two different sizes, one that is wider but shorter than the other. So again, we first have to start with our formulas. These are cylinders, so we will be using V equals pi r squared h for both of them. Please take a moment, pause, and write in, fill in what you know, and then simplify. All right, this is what I got. After I filled in what I knew, I put the radius in for r, the height in for h in both cases, and then simplified using a calculator. I found that the shorter but wider cylinder held more. And that's what you would write as your answer. You wouldn't just leave it like this. Oops. You wouldn't just leave it like this. You'd actually write out the sentence. The shorter, wider cylinder holds more than the taller, thinner one. So make sure you're writing your answer, not just showing your work. This is showing your work. Same with the last problem. I would have written out that the big one held more than two of the smaller ones. So make sure you're not just showing your work. All right, that's it. Please remember to complete your assignment. You have a summative soon, and we out.